My name is Marc Petock, by the way. I am the Chief Marketing and Communication Officer for Lynxspring. I'm also one of the original founders and board of directors for Project Haystack. And I'm also board of directors for Lynxspring and a few other companies and so forth. So this has become a tradition for me to gather my friends, my colleagues together to have an open discussion about our industry. And I'm delighted to have joining me today Paul Maximark from Newcomb & Boyd, Lewis Martin from LMC, Gary Ament from, where are you from? FSG, Dan Burns from JLL, Ed Merwin from Tritium, and Dan Perez from Smart Building Solutions Corp. Gentleman who was supposed to join us, Larry Melton, got the flu. So we told him, do not come, we don't want to get it. And what is important here, not only are these folks industry veterans, and I want to say they've seen it all, but we all know none of us have seen it all. They're going to come at this with different perspectives. Paul's on the engineering side, Ed is on the manufacturing solution creator developer side, Dan is on a service, Dan Burns, service provider, you all know JLL, Dan Perez, one of the premier master system integrators, same with Gary, and Lewis comes at this from a whole nother area. It's almost like a continuation from the talent side of the business. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So we introduced everybody. Quick poll. How many people in here are system integrators? Few. How many people are on the engineering side? Few. How about end user side? Great. IT side? All right. Solution provider, manufacturer, OEM? Few. All right. So we got a really good mix. And how we're going to start is this. I have created a series of questions, of which, yes, I have shared them with the panel. However, I've created some other questions that they have no clue that they're going to get hit with. And who knows, we may go ahead and do that and forget all the others. No, I'm kidding. We're not going to do that. Then, towards about 5 minutes before we end, I'm going to do what's called a lightning round. The only answers, and I will cut them off, is this: yes / I agree, no, I don't agree, or I plead the fifth. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started, and because of time, I'm going to ask you guys to be direct, concise, so we can get through more questions, and then after this, obviously, we can be out in the hall or whatever, happy to talk to you and all that. So, first question, let's start with Grandpa, Ed. The built environment landscape continues to be dynamic and transformative. How are you seeing it today? What is the current direction?
Depends how much money you have to invest.
Okay, good.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You got people that manage buildings very well, like the JLL team. Their customers are probably more advanced than most people out there. But there's still a lot of owners out there who it's just a pure investment. So I think we have a mix out there. I think technology is starting to take hold, but it's amazing to me how many people I talk to on a regular basis that are really far behind on the technology.
So let me ask you this, when you say far behind on the technology, do you feel it is a specific market segment? I.e., we all know the smaller building footprint, there's 6-7 million buildings out there with no controls, no smart thermostat, no nothing. But where are you seeing what you just said?
I've seen a mix. I've seen one of the, I think it's the 10th largest building in the world that still has a building automation system that's 35 years old. Cyber unsecure. Now they realize that and they're working through that. And I've seen some buildings, a lot of buildings are smaller, commercial real estate, pure investment that are advanced because they have a good system integrator they're working with, probably been managing the building. So it's still just a big mix. And I think kidding ourselves to think that there's, and they have building automation,
Sure.
right? But they're kidding themselves that they can just move right along.
All right, this question I want to get the whole panel. Dan Burns, what are you seeing? Dynamic, current direction from your perspective?
So I'm seeing similar. I'm also seeing disparate perspectives if it's an owner-occupier versus an investor. Different goals out of a smart building or a managed building. And what we're seeing are prop tech proliferating like crazy. There's been a lot of consolidation. We've certainly been a part of that. But there's it's interesting, as my firm does facilities management, property management, among other things, and we're seeing examples where owners are buying some technology. It's magic technology, whether it's a box or whether it's a data, something or another, and then they're coming to their outsourced FM providers saying, hey, I bought this magic box and it's supposed to save me 8% on something. It's not. Hey, JLL, this is your problem. Go get my 8%. And so there's a lot of technology, and what I'm driving on top of what Ed said was, where's the orchestration? What happens when there's 2 magic boxes, or there's 6 magic boxes with 4 different providers and 2 MSIs? So there's that orchestration, coordination, planning, and then maintaining that. We're seeing it in very sophisticated pockets, and we're just seeing massive, sound.
So let me ask you this. So coordination, orchestration, do you think that one of the causes is nobody's following any standards, or we don't have the right standards, or what?
Standards are great. Everybody should have one. And so that's part of the problem. But I think it's also, standards are well established in our industry to move data from here to there, whether it's a transport protocol or an IT protocol. But it's more the application of the technology. You can gather the data. Should you be gathering that data? Can you trust that data? Is that data redundant? How many owner-occupiers in this room or at this conference have something in their database called Chiller 1, and they happen to have 40 of Chiller 1s?
We need haystack.
All right, later.
All right, Gary.
Yeah, so Mark, you keep asking, where's the standards from the customer's perspective? It's called program management, and so for us, small box retail specifically, I'm going to pick on a little bit here, they're very, very light, if any, having program managers. And so it's up to us to be the customer advocate, to get them to understand, hey, don't do box A, do box B, or vice versa. Or it's prop tech, let it ride out. Let's do some discovery and see if we can find something else that's better. But I'm very familiar with your predicament. It becomes our problem after they buy it because there's no program. What I mean by that is the kitchen equipment program manager buys something for the EMS and they don't talk.
Dan Perez, from your perspective.
Yeah, I'm going to look at it from, we're in the bid and spec world, so we typically do new construction, even though we have been taking on existing facilities and having to deal with existing facilities and helping tenants and owners, whether they're investors or direct owners in the facilities. What I see on the dynamic side of buildings is the interest of developers to push the envelope on providing the end users or the tenants a premium space, a space that is going to captivate the tenant, where they're putting in, the restaurants, they're putting in office buildings, they're putting in restaurants, they're putting in complete full package gyms, and retail stores, green areas, spaces where the people that are there really don't want to leave the building. And that's where I see the transformative or the transformation in office spaces, especially office spaces. The condos, you're going to have that, but I have 2 high-rise towers that were just finished up in Sunny Isles, South Florida, that have bowling alleys in them, and it's just complete restaurants, discotheques, everything inside. So that's where I see the environment space changing, and that requires a lot more innovation, a lot more controls, comfort, and all that type of stuff.
Lewis.
I'll keep this one short and sweet. I think we're seeing progress, but I'm going to contradict myself here and say that in terms of direction, I think we're stunting where we can go because there's just too many conflicting views, too many different technologies out there, and everyone has an opinion which stifles innovation and ultimately progress.
Paul, especially from your perspective on the engineering, where you guys are, you know, seeing stuff each and every day from your clients.
Thank you. He's ready for me. There's a couple things going on here, right? And I think across the board we've already heard this. Everybody sees all types of technology solutions that come to their door. It's the magic box. But nobody's gone through the trouble of working through the process of identifying the problems they're trying to solve, identifying what the integrations are going to be in the building, identifying how these systems are going to interact. I've been in this industry over 40 years. That's why I'm up on this panel. I have seen buildings that were done 40 years ago that are still the same way now. Okay, why is that? Why haven't they evolved? Because there's somebody that's been there 2 years longer than me that says, we don't want to change that. Nothing's broke. We know what screw to turn. We know what valve to open. We know how to do this. We don't want it automated. Well, the fact is, owners are looking for other things now. The owners are looking for how many people are in that space. What are the daily patterns of occupancy? Are we going to be able to change something to save energy? How are we going to report these things out to the KPIs that we need and the metrics that we're trying to establish in our organizations? So a lot of differences. The systems need to be integrated. That's the challenge that we're trying to face right now.
I'll add that, well said, in addition to KPIs, it's outcomes. And
Yes.
I don't mean just saving energy as an outcome. I'm meaning outcome as it relates to the business of the building. So just key, I'll just throw mine in. All right, let's move on.
I saved that for you because you're the smart one.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so sort of a tag along on this, and I'm just gonna, I'll pick on two of you to answer this one. All right, 2024 is indeed going to be a very interesting year. Is it going to be tough? What headwinds, what guardrails do you see? Where are we, our industry, us, falling short? What are the challenges? Do you think we'll continue to hear as much, hip and hype and both in the industry? Dan, let me start with you. You just look, okay, don't answer me. No, go ahead.
Happy to have a mic in front of me. Yeah, so headwinds in 24, I'll limit the universe of this comment to the owner-occupiers. The corporate clients that I've been working with and my company has have been fairly polite about getting people back in the office. And I see that politeness, even at my Midwest polite company that I work for, being more direct. But there's challenges, and the challenges are the expectation, there's a white paper that was just published, I saw, that talked about commute regret, and how it's incumbent now upon the employers to make the destination worth the drive. And so the expectation is being able to be flexible, space is being repurposed, contraction of footprint. And I have customers today with dozens of millions of square feet, and they're under a directive to contract, but they don't know how many people are in the building each day. Do they badge in and grab their iPad and go home? Or so the headwinds are pressure to get back in the office, the over trillions of dollars of lease of a building that need to be refinanced in the next 24 months are pressing upon this. So better flexibility to manage the space, manage the control of the space, manage the comfort, sharing data where requested about air quality and health and safety, as well as reconfigure flexibility. And a lot of these BMSs that Ed's seen for 30 years in a building may not be designed to be easily flexible to reconfigure what was small offices into an open floor plan or a gym or some sort of amenity space.
All right, let me go ahead and pick on Paul.
I knew he was going to call
No,
me.
especially from the engineering side. Again, challenges, headwinds, you know.
So touching back on what John was saying, yes, I agree there are changes, but what we're seeing is consolidation of real estate portfolios. The owners are consolidating back to the properties they own. The lease spaces in global regions are changing to, we're not going to renew that lease. Back in 2020 to 2022, we did a lot of studies where we did some pilot projects to look at what the utilization of the spaces were. And obviously with COVID, they were very low. Now we're seeing the spaces are still low, and the demographics, quite honestly, have changed in the marketplace. And if you take the corporate stance that you're going to force people to come back into the office, 5 days a week, you're going to find people are not going to be that way. They'll do something else. And I think that's going to be important in what's going to drive our industry here.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Gary, let's start with you for this one. What are the characteristics and attributes of a facility that is smart in today's business climate? Keyword: business climate. Ooh. I've tried to shut you up for 20 years.
That's a
Thank you.
loaded question. Flexibility, flexible connectivity,
Okay.
interoperability of data, IoT, anything that's going to have to do with sustainability. Obviously, that's a big thing still. Flexible occupant areas, like what Dan was talking about. That's going to be important business. I'm sure we'll touch on some of this and some of the other questions, but from my perspective, that's what we're seeing. We're not there yet. We still have a lot of issues with, from a business perspective, if you're going to have a good property, it needs to be cyber protected. We're not there yet. We're not to the point where we have our OT protected as well. So those are just a few points.
Okay. Lewis, let me throw it at you, especially, again, from your perspective.
I would probably say analytics within buildings.
Interesting. Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, so I believe there continues to be a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. What is stopping more building owners and operators from adopting our solutions? What barriers are there still? So, Dan Perez, let's start with you.
Yeah, the first thing that came to mind on this was the cost. Cost is the biggest barrier. Implementing sophisticated systems, a lot of owners just don't want to pay for it.
Well, have we, as an industry, again, done a good enough job to equate cost with value and benefit? I know what my answer is.
No.
Hell no. And does the panel kind of agree with that as well? We still have a long ways to equate value and benefits to cost. Okay. Let's go with Paul on this one. Same question.
Same question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Characteristics and attributes.
I think there's a larger focus on the data now and the accuracy of the data. I think in the past, everything was so siloed, nobody really cared. It was just, yeah, there's some trend data, the building's hot or cold. Now it's more focused on integrating into the analytics program and future systems that they'll integrate into.
Do you think, we've talked about analytics now in our industry 8 years, 10 years, or whatever, how long it's been. I believe we've got really good analytic solution offerings that are out there that can do it. Where I believe we still have a long way to go is especially on the owner side where they don't understand the analytics. And especially if you talk to a data scientist who is a smart person who does analytics for other types of industries or other processes, when you start talking building technology, BACnet, lawn, or whatever, it's, what are you talking about? They don't understand. So I think we still have a long way to go to get people who understand our analytics to be able to get the results and then obviously implement them and so forth and so on. So let's go with Ed. What are the building owner and operators' expectations today? Are they different than they were 6, 7, 8 years ago?
First thing I can't let the other question go.
All right.
You can have the best analytics in the world, and if you send somebody to go fix a VAV box and you don't have the personnel to go do that, the analytics aren't worth a hoot.
Correct.
So I'm going to channel my good buddy Paul Oswald, who said you got to maintain the building first for any of this technology to work. So let's start with that premise right there. As an old person starting the board. So I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
No, your time, buddy. No.
I'm just saying now, as far as owners today, I see a lot of different owners. People call me in to consult and talk with owners. So I see it end to end, and I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but I see some people that are really good about it. They get it. They're taking their portfolio, and today, even with COVID and even with people not there, it's even more important to have remote connectivity to that building because there's nobody in the building, and buildings that aren't occupied do weird stuff. Right? The fans aren't running. You have issues with the doors not opening and hinges sticking. I'm sure the JL people see this all the time. So it really comes down to again, the ability of the owner to understand that, and does the owner have people on staff that understand that? And I think that's the difference that I'm seeing today. And I'm hoping that we're going to see with a lot of the next generation that maybe have a little bit more understanding, a little technology behind them. They're coming out of school and they're not just didn't learn stuff in the boiler room. Maybe they'll push some of that forward. Some of that technology. I'm hoping.
All right, look, I'm going to keep moving because again, I want to at least get to all these questions if it's at least one person who answers. Indoor air quality, IAQ. We're entering the 4th year of post-pandemic. During this time, there has been a lot of talk about indoor air quality. Are you still seeing it? With the challenges owners and operators are having with operating their buildings and facilities today, occupancy levels, blah, blah, blah. Is this still part of the conversation? Gary?
Absolutely. So again, small box retail, thousands of sites. It's very important for our customers to understand the indoor air quality of their stores because they can go from 2 people to 20 people in 2 minutes. So it's a very active conversation. We're still looking at some of the ionization stuff that came out. There was some really good prop tech that came out a couple of years ago. It's kind of fell flat because of a certain acronym that nobody wants to talk about anymore. We'll get to that later. But it's still viable, and we're still getting asked about it. So I believe it's going to continue to be a topic of discussion for property owners, small box retail, everything you see on the street. People are going to want to know the indoor air quality is good.
Let's go to Paul, especially, again, engineering, system integrator, I'm trying to get their different perspectives. And so far in the conversation, I've heard some agreement on some, but I also have heard some differences of opinion, which I would expect and I was hoping for.
So let's talk about indoor air quality. First, there's code requirements regulated by code for the CO2 monitoring and so forth. But what we're talking about is more aligned with actually the particulate matter that's in the workplace, the VOCs. Employees today have become very concerned about that. I know just from my experience in the past, people have always complained, there's been people saying they get headaches in the workspace, there's something wrong in the space, and then you take some ratings and say, oh no, everything's fine. We're getting enough outdoor air and everything. But when you do the studies, and we've done this extensively in spaces, and even in my own house, you can see how when you do a new building or a retrofit in a space, the gases emitted from the materials, the wallpaper, the carpeting, and everything else, even though ash rate dictates you have ventilation purge cycles, they still self-generate long after that building's been purged. And if you're not, getting enough outside air and so forth, you end up having issues with there that can affect a lot of people, you know, the employees coming into the workplace. And that's not a good thing if you're trying to bring more people back to work.
So let me ask this to the panel, and again, short answer, just we'll go start from Ed, we'll work our way down, real short. So this past year and a half, we saw in the news a lot of fires out in the environment, whether it be up north in Canada, west coast, or wherever. And having good indoor air quality measures, do you think that helped prevented the smoke and the smell and all that stuff, which I'm sure I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I smelled it on my walks in the morning. Ed, do you think that is now part of indoor air quality, the outdoor stuff like a fire or whatever?
I think the only way you can mitigate that, again, was filtration, because you know what? You bring in outside air, and the outside air is bad, and I've done some work in Asia over the years. You talk about in the morning commute with the two-stroke engines.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You close the outside air because the indoor air was better than the outdoor air. So that's an issue for, I think, the engineering team to look at. But I do know that we've done some really cool things with some school districts where they have sand in the air, like in Las Vegas area, and it runs up. Well, we'll actually close down some outside air for a while to keep that sand from getting in and destroying the filters and things of that sort. So I think it's really dependent on where you're at. And I don't know what other technology you could use, ionization or better filtration, maybe to help some of that.
Dan, how about you, Dan? Sorry, I'm going to just keep going.
Yeah, no, I think technology's there, but as I said, it takes engineering, especially for those massive events like the fires in the north. But I also think that there's an expectation from occupiers of the space now to be able to ask the question, what is the quality of my air right now? And do I know I'm coming to a safe place? And what is my company doing about that to share that data with me or impact it?
And to the point that was made, I forget who made it, about commute worthiness place to go, whether it is the social climate, you know, I got coffee, I got meals or whatever, but it's also the health, if you will, of it. Gary?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think the measures we have done since COVID have helped, but to Ed's point, you can only filter so much. This is where ionization comes in, and it's really lagging behind because what you want to do with that particular situation is you shut off the outside air, but how do you clean the air? You can do it with ionization and filtration, but not just filtration. You still got a lot of air changes coming in through the doors and stuff of the building.
Dan?
Yeah, especially in school districts, you know, in our climate zone, we have a problem where, I mean, it's good and bad. We have 100% relative humidity year round. So it's impossible to bring 100% outside air to reduce, you know, to clean these spaces or to bring fresh air in. And what I see more prominent is buildings are now just focusing on installing dedicated outside air systems, DOAS units, or that are going to pipe the fresh air right into the VAVs or the air handlers, and they're clean. They can bring 100% fresh air, and it's mitigated, right? But school zones or schools are big on that in South Florida.
Lewis?
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially with the return to work debate, indoor air quality, for me, I could be wrong on this, but it's easily one of the best ways to get your people back into the office, depending on what that looks like, but also creates additional value to the building owner from a lease standpoint.
Paul?
I think the important thing too that Ed brought up was if you start messing around with the control system, the automation, now you're overriding systems, and then you affect other issues in the building, like the parameters for pressurization, which amplifies the effect in the building. But to go back to technology, that where it helps us out is, if the air quality is not good, both outside and inside, then don't have people come into work. Work remote, which supports a hybrid environment. That's why I think the hybrid environment is the way to go.
And I think I personally think that the hybrid environment is here to stay. It seems like everybody's gravitating to at least 3 days a week. I mean, and again, whether or not that will always be, who the hell knows. So next one. All right, let's keep this quick. Next generation. Ooh. In every business, we hear the term next generation. For our industry, what is the next generation? Paul, let's go back go back this way. Just 30-second answer, each of you.
Costa Rica for me, I'm retired.
Love it. Lewis?
Good cigars now.
Yeah.
Next generation, I mean, we're struggling to get access to the next generation, but for me, it's all about data, removing silos. Once we get good data, long-term, accurate data, then we can really start thinking about AI application.
Dan Perez?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the AI side. I think whoever develops the first driver to sit in Niagara that's going to do AI, that's going to be the next generation.
Gary?
You did this on purpose, right?
I did.
So we don't say AI, then we hate that.
Okay. Exactly.
Well, it's going to be AI, unfortunately.
Okay.
Sustainability, those types of things.
Okay. Dan?
I say that it becomes additive to what we're doing today because there's data science that's involved, there's cyber that's involved, and a lot of this today is outsourced or consulted in, but it is additive because of the prop tech, because of the AI and things we've talked about before.
I'm going to go non-technology. It's going to be the next generation of people that are going to manage the buildings and get them in here. So Lewis has got to help us take care of that.
So one of the things that again, this is personal opinion about our industry, is we do a hell of a job talking about what's next, what's coming. Is that a detriment to building owners and operators? Oh, what's next? Well, you know what? I'm not going to adopt anything you got today. I'm going to wait and wait and wait. So I think next generation is important, don't get me wrong. But I think it's the way the context and the way it is presented. I do believe that is a major barrier why we don't have a lot of building owners or more buildings with control, smarter, fill in the blank. So anyway, speaking of data, you guys brought it up. The proliferation of data and its importance in managing and operating buildings is at its highest level ever. What are your thoughts, and especially about data ontologies and data with respect to an enterprise or a campus-wide environment or whatever? My friend, start.
Develop the strategy of where you're going to do the data tagging and ontology. Secondly, make it open so it'll support multiple systems. It can't just be Brick, it can't just be Haystack, it can't be Google's ontology. It has to be able to support any of them so you can apply that data tag. And I think the biggest thing is going to be getting the data organized, because right now it's really messy out there and it's very challenging.
Lewis, you're a big data fan, so your thoughts?
Yeah, pretty simple, open source.
Okay. Dan Perez.
Yeah, I think open source and making sure that you have a protocol that's supported across the board, and storage, where you're storing everything.
Mm-hmm. Gary.
Flexible data APIs and just the tagging and naming. We still are having troubles with that.
Dan?
I would add to that, and someone mentioned it earlier on the panel, program management, change management of this. Buildings are always at their optimal commissioning day, the day the commissioning agent leaves. Data, it magnifies and amplifies that a lot when you've got interconnectivity.
Yeah. And I'm going to add, I really do think the manufacturers have to build in tagging from what comes from the factory. There's no reason why a VAV box controller coming from the factory shouldn't have the tags in it, or a rooftop unit. Customs I get, but it's a shame that hasn't been done and there hadn't been a standard for that of some sort. We can all figure it out. If it, like you said, if it's Brick or it's Haystack, those are just drivers, right? We can pick that up, but we have to make sure that the majority of the stuff when it shows up, it's got some of that built in, so we don't have to worry about it.
All right, this next question, I want everybody's participation, including you guys and the audience. So, of the following list that I'm going to give you, now listen carefully, what will be the most talked about technology in 2024? The most, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. Let me give you the categories first. AI, electrification, decarbonization, quantum computing, cybersecurity, cloud, 6G. Again, AI, electrification, decarbonization, quantum computing, cybersecurity, cloud, 6G. That's your only ones you can. So, how many, everybody together, AI? I'd say that's a huge part of the audience. Electrification. Few, good. Quantum computing. One, you're solo. Cybersecurity. And if you want to, you can vote twice. You know, nobody's going to, you know. I should have told you that. I'm sorry.
True AI, not fake AI.
Yeah, there you go. Cloud. 6G. No, there's one. Yeah, I was going to say there's, and I would agree with, no, not in our time. Artificial intelligence is our next category. Obviously, we could not have a question here or two about artificial intelligence. So, artificial intelligence, no doubt, took center stage in 2023 with the arrival of ChatGPT, Microsoft's Bing, so forth and so on. So, really driving the hype circle to unbelievable proportions. So, what are your thoughts about AI as it relates to operating and managing our buildings? Where do you see and what role do you see generative AI playing within the built environment? Dan Burns, you're nodding your head, so you're dying to talk, so go ahead, start us.
I appreciate the time. No, I think it's critically important, and I think we're going to see more of AI and Gen AI built into some of the tools that are being let out. And it's you know, not a people replacement strategy. It is an efficiency and help glean results faster so you can target what the problems, the alarms, the alerts that are coming in on your BAS to go attack first.
All right, Gary.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to what Dan said there.
You can't plead the fifth on this question.
I'm not going to.
Okay.
Make me talk about AI again.
Okay.
We've got our triage software that we use. We got, I don't know, 20,000 alarms in a month, and we use fake AI to get through those. But we have to understand that we can't do that with people. So it's really got us down to a couple of people running 10,000 alarms, which is pretty neat. That's going to be the future. But to his point, needs to be more built in to the devices and software that's out there.
Ed?
I think it's going to be tech support right away, right? Just think of all the proliferation of data and all the books and manuals that we have. But those you can say, hey, tell me how to add an alarm point to a Niagara, proxy point, and it immediately takes you there. That's where it's going to really be very efficient, I think.
Dan Perez.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how it's going to all play out, but I see customers of ours interested in using AI to predict what the issues are going to be. It's kind of like what analytics does already, but AI will make that decision for you, and they are interested in seeing that.
Lewis.
Yeah, I agree with what Ed mentioned. I think predominantly for tech support. I think for me, when I talk about AI or clients ask about AI, it's important to note that it's not the silver bullet. There's still a need for people, and this may be controversial, but I don't think there is a technology out there that may be marketed as doing this, but can actually remove people from buildings and automate the buildings. Maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, but I think for me, it's an application to take away monotonous tasks and improve tech support.
Paul?
Yeah, and I think to add to that, Lewis, AI, I think, a component of that's machine learning, which I think is something that we really haven't been involved with a lot because nobody really knows what it is, right? They use it in manufacturing and so forth. But I think that's going to help drive more efficiencies in the building and also give deeper insights into the building on your equipment and everything else and your people in the space. But I don't think it's going to be a replacement, not for a long time. It will be able to manage multiple buildings all at once more efficiently.
My concern at this point of where we're at with AI is this. We have not figured out the legal side of AI. And I think that is the sleeping dragon that will haunt us all. Can you imagine, oh, well, my building's controlled by AI. God forbid something happens. I'd say it's a fire. and all of a sudden, everybody's locked in there in the building. They can't get out. Oh, well, it was AI. Just saying. So we've got to figure out that legal side of AI.
Well, I think,
Go
ahead.
Sky Cochran, you're laughing. No.
I think you watch too many movies.
Watch war games. Exactly. All right. So,
I think there's more pressing priorities for our community compared to AI. But people don't want to be left behind, so I understand why there's so much
Good
traction.
point. All right. Somebody alluded to this, that we were going to bring this up because I fed them this question. ESG. All right. The Wall Street Journal, a couple weeks ago, had an article. I'm going to read this. Many companies no longer utter these three letters, ESG, following years of simmering investor backlash, political pressure, and legal threats. Our governmental, social, and governance efforts, several business leaders are now making conscious effort to avoid the once widely used acronym for such initiatives. Instead, the terms responsible business, okay, sustainability, net zero, or whatever, but ESG. Do you see ESG, the term, and all the stuff we've been talking about, kind of quieting down for a while? Ed?
I just worried about the sustainability and the energy side, and let other people worry about the other things, to be honest with you, because that's what my role is. So
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Dan Burns?
I agree with that. I think we continue to evolve the energy management and the impact of sustainability. I think, in my own opinion, from that article and others that Mark mentioned, is there's been a Wall Street-driven backlash, unfortunately making ESG a dirty word, like green became at one point, but the greenwashing. And I think it's less. My read of it is it's been a little less about the inability to accomplish the goals and more about investor strategy. When one of the largest real estate investors in the world is one of the first to say, we're not going to say that word.
Yeah, exactly. Gary?
Ed's not wrong. You should focus on the E and the S and not the G. Somebody else. But seriously, we have customers with ESG reports, but what we're finding out is it's less compartmentalized. It's more of an overall overarching, how do we get our building to net zero, how do we be in sustainability, but not the compartmentalized parts of ESG. Does that make sense?
Dan Perez?
I'm going to be honest, I had never even heard about ESG.
Okay.
Never came up and has never come up in Florida. But sustainability does.
Sure.
That's what we
Yeah.
focus on.
Yeah. Lewis?
I think ESG can mean many things: net zero, decarbonisation, sustainability. I'm not quite sure why ESG, the term, is such a divisive term. So,
Paul?
I just think ESG was something that came to market really quick, and quite honestly, most of the stuff we deal with on the sustainability side is the climate action plan, the driven net zero or decarbonization. It's all part of all that, right? It just was another fancy buzzword, right, that someone came up with. So.
All right, just real quick, two more quick questions and I want to get to the lightning round. We cannot have this discussion without talking about cybersecurity. Let's just do this as a quick one. Are we taking it seriously yet? And do we have the solutions, processes, and plans to keep OT secure? Start.
No, we do not.
Okay, Lewis?
technology, yeah, processed. No.
Dan Perez?
No, we do not.
Eric?
Implementation is not manifested yet.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, I think it's the building's equivalent of cholesterol. Everybody knows they need to address it at some point, but the can keeps getting kicked.
Ed?
We make huge, huge investments every day in cyber and also in the process. We just recently, went through becoming certified for the process of implementing cybersecurity. So as a company creating products, we take it super seriously. But I agree with you that the customers are they're waiting till they have an event and then then they still stick with it.
Because in my opinion, they still think it's not going to happen to me. You know, it's like insurance for your car. Oh, God, I got to pay this every month or every year. I don't use it. Well, the day you need it, you're glad you have it. So last question, then we'll get to the lightning round. And Lewis, sort of relates to your expertise here. We'll start with you. So all about talent, and it's a carryover from the previous group that was talking here. Are we still affected by a talent gap? How does our industry train and support system integrators and end users to advance into new areas such as carbon reduction, net zero, whatever? How do we, we'll just leave it at that.
I think there's a huge and worrying talent gap. I think what has been promising over the last couple of years is that there are more people interested in net zero, smart building technology, and that really is where a lot of the traction is for people coming out of university or maybe taking apprenticeships, maybe wanting to move on to the IT side. But I do think, and collectively, me included, I'm trying, we need to do better in terms of supporting MSIs, SIs, control contractors, the small firms regionally, which are clearly struggling.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the lightning round. All right, again, the only answers, and I'm cutting you off. Agree, disagree, yes, no, I plead the fifth.
Can I just say no to all of them?
If you'd like. So let's start with Paul, we'll just work our way down, and then when we finish, we'll work our way back. Smart buildings have been around since the 1980s. Have we, as an industry, the folks who design and deliver smart buildings, proven the ROI?
I'll plead the fifth.
No.
I'll plead the fifth.
No.
No.
I think we can.
That's not an answer. No.
My 48 years that I can say whatever the hell I want.
Okay, we're going to come back this way. Come back. All right, Ed and team, do we have more technology than we need?
Oh, hell yeah.
All right, Dan Burns.
No.
Yes.
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 Okay. All right, going back. Paul, start with you. Is the valuation, the property value of a building, of a facility, impacted by how smart it is?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Cool. All right, that's agreement there. My answer is yes too. All right, Ed, coming back. Good. This is a good one, I think. Have we, our industry, all of us here, gotten too complex? Is it turning building owners and operators off?
Yes.
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 Ooh. Yes.
Okay.
All right, there you go. All right, let's see. Have we, the industry, us, advanced from 2020, 23, when we were last here talking at AHR? Go.
Yes.
Lewis.
No.
No.
I'll plead the fifth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right, couple more. Is our industry disruptive? Are we disruptive enough?
Yes.
Yes? Speak up! Speak up. No.
Yes.
Thank you.
No.
I'll plead the fifth again.
I'll plead the fifth.
No.
I'll plead the fifth.
All right. All right, back to AI for a minute. Is AI our cybersecurity friend or foe? Ooh. Go ahead.
How do you answer that, yes or no?
It either is.
Foe.
Or, all right, plead the fifth.
Foe.
I'll plead the fifth.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that.
Both.
All right, four more questions real quick. Innovation in the industry is innovation in the industry outpacing an owner-operator's capability, willingness, and or ability to take advantage of it? Ed?
Yes.
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 100% yes.
100% yes.
All right. This next one, are we going to see more compliance requirements and mandates, such as New York Local 97 and the various other cities, Philadelphia has it, Boston has it, so forth and so on? Paul?
Yes.
I hope so, yes.
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 While 90% of the companies say they are returning to office by the end of 2024, is the 5-day workday commute going to the office dead?
Yes.
Plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth.
Yes.
I plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth.
All right, the last question, and this is by far the most important question that I can answer today.
Time's up.
Is the Kansas City Chiefs going to win the Super Bowl?